So the meeting's been called to order. We're gonna do roll call. I wanna welcome two new faces to the table of the best committee, second only to finance.
That's only because I'm sitting here.
Two new members of the committee, so we'll go ahead and get the roll call so that they can be officially announced.
Johnson.
Present.
Wiper.
I'm here.
Markham.
Here.
Miller is absent with notice. Taylor.
Here.
Smiley.
Here.
Smith Charles.
Present.
Yeah, quorum.
Wonderful. Commissioner Smiley, would you lead us in the pledge? We just
Oh,
gonna
thank you,
stand
yes.
and get the pledge going.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That takes us to item 4 on our agenda. Approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes dated December 4th, 2024.
Support that.
Moved by Commissioner Wiper, supported by,
Either
yes.
way.
Commissioner Markham supports Commissioner Wiper.
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion or additions, corrections, or anything of such? Seeing none, we can go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. Takes us to item 5 on the agenda, which is approval of the agenda. Take a look at it. It's nice and concise. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
The last time it's this small.
Moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Taylor. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you, motion carries. Item 6 on the agenda is public comment, where you have 3 minutes per speaker related to items on the agenda. Is there anyone here who'd like to address this committee? Give you a couple of seconds to decide as you're walking through the hall. I see no one moving to the front of the room, so I'll go ahead and close this first public comment. Next item is item 7, communications. We have item A, Economic Development Airport Committee meeting minutes from November 13th, 2024.
I'll move those.
Thank you.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported to receive and file.
Right.
And if you just because there's a few new faces, give an opportunity to review those if you haven't already. But we will, the vote is to receive and file.
So just for you two, in case you don't know what we do, Oakland County has 3 airports. And the airport committee is over all of those. Almost 100% of their funding comes from the feds. And a lot of their rules come from the feds. Like we have one airport out in New Hudson out by Phil. It's a lovely little thing, but we have to keep it. We have to keep it operational and all of that because the feds want it kept open and operational. So this committee we look at the amount of planes that are flying through and any issues with land acquisition and that sort of thing. So that's what that committee does.
Heights of trees.
Heights of trees, which is very important,
Okay.
right?
If I'm wrong, it's far more expensive to close an airport than simply keep it going, correct? That was my impression.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Well, and it's also considered a homeland security situation where if we ever did need airports to,
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
so.
Well, thank you for that. And
All right.
having any more discussion on this? If not, we can go ahead and prompt the vote to receive and file.
We usually try to meet before EDI so that
Airport does?
airport does. If we meet, we usually try to meet before EDI, just so everything can move through the process
Yeah,
all
makes
in a
sense.
row.
Our Girl Scout leader, Cheryl, isn't here, which she's here like more than some of us sometimes when it comes to these reports. So you'll get to meet, if you haven't already, Cheryl Bush with, I forget her title, but she's all things airports for Oakland County.
Okay. You have 6 yeas, 0 nays.
Also, if you want a tour, there's a good tour of like all the airports that we can do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they usually,
We should do that. Yeah.
yeah.
So that motion
Talk,
carries.
Yeah, so
And
we're not
fear
having
not,
multiple tours.
we are a touring body. We love to go on field trips. So there's, we did Commissioner Weipert and I did the medical examiners last year and saw 2 autopsies, like, and lived to tell it.
I was like, yeah, I'm good, I don't need to.
It was rough. But we'll move on into item 8, which is our Water Resource Commissioner recommendations. Item A, I'll take a motion to recommend to the board Water Resource Commissioner salary schedule adjustment for certain Water Resource Commissioner classifications. Moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Markham. Jim, welcome. Kelsey, welcome. Mr. Cook and Commissioner Nash. Ms. Cook and Commissioner Nash, I should say. And is there anyone else with you today?
It's there.
Jim, okay, all right, well, the floor is yours. Please do, just a little reminder about the side conversation. It's not me, it's the YouTube. You'd be surprised what it picks up, so just to keep that in mind. Over to you,
Well,
Commissioner.
thank you so much. Always good to see everybody. I'm here today to talk about some economic salary plan exceptions that we were looking for in our office. Going back to 2020, the county did a job study on all the employees, and we at that point realized that we were our leadership folks were lower paid than they should be. The Board of Commissioners, through miscellaneous resolution 2557, acknowledged the importance of allowing me to institute certain wage adjustments to resolve inequity of wages. Last year, when updated study was done using data from 22-23 by a third-party consultant, this study is submitted in this memorandum, and I think you guys have all this, to continue to remain competitive in the market for positions held within my office for professional engineers, these being my chief engineers, my special project manager, and my managers. We have to have a wage increase. Personally, just in the last 10 years, I lost 1 chief engineer and 2 managers to Great Lakes Water Authority, and I don't want that to happen again. We have a great, amazing team of folks, including Kelsey, who operate our systems, and we have these are the folks I've ever worked with in my life. So I want to make sure we keep them. We don't want to lose them to other agencies that are larger or more affordable than us. I'm coming to the Board of Commissioners because these 3 classifications I've noted are exceptions to the county salary administration plan, are under the preview of my office budget. I need the salary grade for each of these classifications adjusted upwards 2 salary grades. This translates to the following, and you've got these. The chief engineer would go up from 108 to 120. Special projects and managers would go up to 126 from 114. There's no impact in the county's general fund because this is all out of our own budgets that we have for our systems, and it's out of the drain revolving fund. So that's it for me. Kelsey, anything you want to add that I've missed or?
No, you've covered it. Yep, answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely.
Thank you. For the good in the order, I do typically love when folks use the request to speak button. It's if you ever have trouble finding it, it's right by the blue details. If you ever can't find where we are on the agenda, pro tip, just hit details and it'll take you to the item that we're on. But I don't see any hands. Anyone have any in real life hands up for this item? One thing I did want to just dig in on just a little bit was the memorandum with the classifications. I appreciate being competitive. It pains me that GLEWA took some of our people. These salary ranges allows for a candidate to perhaps negotiate, or is that like on the job description where it has that range?
Yeah, so these ranges are on the job description. If we were to hire new, we would be able to negotiate between these ranges for new employees. The increases we're asking for today are all for existing managers, chief engineers, and our special projects manager.
Okay, and is it within our purview? I don't know, maybe it's a Lago thing, but the current folks who these would apply to, would they be on the higher end of the scale or?
They would. Actually, all of our special projects manager and our managers are all tapped out at the top of their salary. So if this was approved, they would go to the top of the new proposed salary.
Okay, great.
And we have 6 chief engineers. 5 of the 6 are also maxed out on their salary, so they would too go to the top of the range.
Okay, wonderful, because I'd like us to do our best to retain, you know, the people who know where the bathrooms are, as they say. So if nothing, okay, Commissioner Wyper,
No, I think Kelsey just covered it. So,
wonderful.
thank you.
Commissioner Markham, followed by Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, just for our new members, Commissioner Nash kind of went quickly through it, but this is not coming out of our general fund, which is typically the stuff that we look at and the approvals that we make, especially if we're changing how much money we're spending in the middle of the year. But because they get all their funding from the drain, what do we call it? You know, when you pay
Rates?
the rate, yeah.
There's-
So
You got it.
that's how they get all their funding, so this comes out of that funding and it doesn't affect our regular budget.
I think I'm the only one
Thank
that
you
comes
for
out
that.
of general fund, it's because I'm elected, so.
Right, right.
Right, that's also very
Oh, I
important when we do budget review. All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you very much. Minor question, have, since this is all for real life human beings, not hypotheticals, have they threatened or hinted at looking elsewhere?
No?
Good.
The folks I lost didn't either.
I was gonna say,
It just
It's called quiet
came to
quitting.
be and said, hey.
sometimes you wish they would.
Right.
All right, anything further?
No.
Seeing no other hand, oh, yes,
I
Commissioner.
did, I put the little hand down here too, did it show
Okay.
up?
It did not, but we'll ding Civic Clerk for that.
Okay.
But I appreciate you cooperating. Go for it.
Absolutely. A couple questions. First of all, I think that's great. And you have steps on here. How do you implement the steps? I'm just doing for my own knowledge, because I saw 84, and I know that's just a number. You don't have 84 steps. But when do you do the step increase? Is it annually?
It
or-
is, yep,
Okay.
as merit employees, which all these employees are, every year they would receive what's called a merit increase.
Mhm.
So if they came in at the bottom step, that would be 0, and then the next would be 12. So it actually, the number is increments of months.
Mhm.
And then so as they get, annually, they would get another step increase.
So it's not tied to that merit increase? I mean, or is it? Your step increase and the merit is tied together?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Then the other thing is, since most of the employees are at the top,
Mhm.
the step increase will give them their encouragement or whatever to say, hey, we appreciate everything you're doing. I'm trying to see, because you wanna retain them. If they're at the top and they don't see any progression in 2 years, we're gonna be in the same situation. But hearing that you have a thing going on, that will encourage them and say, hey, at least I'm getting cost of living or something of that nature.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, yep, the cost of living is the annual increase every year, as you
Okay.
know. But yeah, for most of these folks, they're at the top, they're gonna go to the new top. So they're not gonna have those step increases,
Okay.
but at least they will be closer to the market rate anyway, and then they'll have the cost of living.
Okay, thank you. I just try to look at ways to help the employees.
Absolutely.
And since you want to retain them, that was something I wanted to ensure this will continue to do. Thank you. Thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. If nothing further on this item, we can go ahead and prompt the vote on 8A.
You have 68 zero nays.
Thank you, motion carries. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the staff. The next item is 9A, which is the 2024 Oakland County Brownfield Consortium Agreement with the City of Southfield and the Community Housing Network US EPA grant. This is a recommendation to the board. Commissioner Wyper
Move it.
moves, supported by Commissioner Taylor. And it looks,
Madam Chair.
yes, sir.
Since we have 2 new people,
Yes, sir.
could we get an overview of Brownfield? Just, you know.
We sure can.
How quick do you want it?
From our,
I can go for hours.
if something was built on it before, it's a
Well,
brownfield.
but the process.
Perfect, all right, there we go.
There you go.
Absolutely. And Commissioner Wyper is absolutely right. So Kristen Wolfang and Bradley Hanson here for us. Please indulge us a little pregame on brownfields.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So good to see you all. So I'm Kristen Wilping. Brad and I both are within our Economic Development Department within the Planning Division. So I'll give you just a quick overview of the planning division, because you may see us coming and going throughout the year for different projects. But in planning, we have our Main Street program. We also have land use and zoning. We have our brownfield program. We have our household hazardous waste collections through our No-Haz program. And then we also have materials management. So those are, and historic preservation as well. So those are all the different programs that you may see our staff from the planning division throughout the year. Before you today is the EPA grant that was awarded to the county for $1.5 million to conduct property environmental site assessments. And I know at our last meeting, when the grant was accepted, the commissioners asked about more details about the program. So we did develop a brochure. This will be posted to the website. We'll also print copies to hand out to the cities, villages, and townships, because it is a very popular program with the developers and the communities to redevelop the brownfields. So I'll turn it over to Brad Hansen. I'll pass these out to you, and he can give you a little bit more of an overview on the brownfield program itself.
Thank you.
Sure. So, I'll keep my comments as short as possible to try to explain the program. But in a nutshell, the brownfield program is the cleanup and redevelopment of old contaminated or perceived contaminated lands. In the state of Michigan, we have a little bit broader spectrum we can use as far as properties. That includes blighted property, obsolete property, historic property, any property that's in a land bank can be considered a brownfield as well. And we have a new aspect that just got passed in October of '23, including just affordable attainable housing as being eligible property for brownfield. So with the newest legislation change with the housing TIF, we call it that portion of the housing TIF, we've seen a pretty big uptick of proposed developers coming in and be interested in this land just for the housing TIF aspect. And our contaminated / blighted obsolete property programs are still going well as well. So we've been very busy. But basically it gives the developer incentives to redevelop the property, clean up and redevelop the property by capturing tax increment financing. So the base level will stay the same when the brownfield plan is passed. And it's whatever income tax are generated from that development that are eligible to be captured and reimbursed to the developer over a set number of years, which is outlined in the brownfield plan. The brownfield plan itself, it states how much eligible activities and how much money are gonna be reimbursed to the developer. That goes through our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority first, along with our local unit of government to concur with the provisions of the brownfield plan. But then it will come to this body in finance as well. Then it'll go to the Board of Commissioners for a public hearing and a final approval of a vote for capture of local taxes. Local taxes are considered everything but state education and school, state education and operational. Those are considered state taxes. So a project is going for those after those CBRA and Board of Commissioners approve the brownfield plan. A 381, what's called a 381 work plan is put together, and that goes to the state, either the MSHDA, MEDC, or EGLE to get full approval for those costs. Once they get approved for those costs, the work can begin and redevelop it, and the developer will be paid back via their own taxes that they pay on the property over a set number of years.
Thank you.
Sorry, a lot of information, but
No, I think that was probably the most concise, comprehensive explanation I've ever heard. And thank you, Commissioner Weinberg, for that tee up, because I don't think if I were quizzed on the stuff you just said, I would have known some of that connectivity, because we do see you a lot, and it's great. Commissioner Smiley.
Thank you. Just a little clarification on contaminated. First of all, back up just a little bit. Is a property kind of default to a brownfield until it's been tested, or is it, how is it classified until you just figure out it's contaminated or not?
generally in real estate transactions, you'll want to do your due diligence, which includes environmental, do your phase one. Phase one will actually go into the history of the property and see if there's any reason to think that the property may be contaminated or perceived to be contaminated, whether that be on property itself or a gas station that was across the street that might have migrated off-site into your site. A phase two gets into the ground, actually testing the soil and the groundwater. But to answer your question specifically, I wouldn't say that it automatically defaults to brownfield, there needs to be a reason to have that thought that it would be, might be perceived to be contaminated or
Okay.
contaminated. Then obviously you have to hit certain requirements to be actually qualified as a brownfield. So for the contamination part, you have to be above the state standards as far as contaminants in the ground.
Oh, okay, that was kind of leading into the next part, which is, I'm assuming there's different degrees of contamination. It can be very minor and easy and inexpensive to clean up, it could be extreme and be
Millions of
very
dollars.
expensive, and
Yes,
anything in between.
correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
And before you today is the final piece of our EPA grant that will conduct those environmental site assessments.
Right,
The phase
right.
1 and the phase 2s. And so the agreement is with the consortium members to move forward with the grant. So we could start doing those phase 1 and phase 2 tests on certain properties that are nominated.
Wait, does that mean it's not a brownfield yet, or it needs to be tested to discover if it is or not?
Most projects we deal with are not considered brownfields until we can figure out, unless we know that there's a letter from the city saying that it's blighted or obsolete.
Oh, okay,
Then it'll be considered a brownfield right away. Or if it's a historic resource, or it's in a land bank. Those are all properties that are considered brownfields. But if you're going for contamination aspect of it, we have to have some reporting stating that it's, here's what's in the ground. And that's what this program, the US EPA grant, $1.5 million, helps us do. We do a good job vetting projects, knowing that, yeah, there's issues out there. We don't wanna use this project. We haven't used, this is our, I think, our 8th grant with the US EPA going back to 2002. We have a good track record of getting a return on investment on our dollars as far as cleanup and development of those sites. So we don't just wanna use the money, just speculative projects like, oh yeah, this property over here might, we were not sure, but it's more of like a transaction screening. We try to stay away from those as much as possible and really focus on properties that we know that probably have some contamination on it.
I've got very little experience with it, but it was once there, I was surprised, like, oh, we didn't know that was in there, so.
That's always the case,
You
yeah.
gotta
there's
find
always-
out
yeah.
before you plan anything,
Yeah,
so.
you don't know anything until you get in the ground, yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wiper.
And as Chris told, we got that $1.5 million from EPA to conduct assessment, help communities conduct assessments to discover what's potential and go to economic development, right? So we're gonna use 60 today for Southfield and then 60 for the rest of the county, and you put the brochure, so everybody's gonna know about this and the opportunities, right? So
Yes, so in front of you today is the memorandum of understanding just with our consortium members. And it's important to point out that previously, under previous grants, we had different consortium members, but the US EPA changed up their guidelines this go around, so we had to focus on more of a limited partnership, even though we still consider our previous community members that were consortium members, still consortium members. Now that not officially earmarked $60,000 like City of Southfield, the Community Housing Network. But we're on the record saying, bring your projects to us. This project itself is for all of Oakland County. So any city, village, or township is eligible to utilize this money. Another thing to point out, just because there's $60,000 earmarked in the MOU, doesn't mean if the community, Southfield or Community Housing Networks gets to that point that they're done. If we have monies left over and they have a really good project, we will entertain those projects as well going forward. And we've done that in the past with all our previous consortium members.
Thank you. Any other questions from Commissioners? Oh, I'm sorry, let me get back to my screen.
I pushed the button.
Oh,
Commissioner Markham?
Yeah, I think you answered my question, but I just want to be clear. We got $1.5 million from the EPA. We're dishing out $120,000 with these 2 projects. And the rest of it is gonna sit in an account until other communities come forward with other projects.
Yeah, even the 60,000 is still gonna be sitting there, it's a reimbursement aspect,
right.
so if they'll bring projects to us, and I'll keep track of how much money each Southfield or Community Housing Network spend, but yes, you're correct. That's
So basically 90% of that $1.5 million is still available for communities that want to pursue this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
please, if you know any projects whatsoever, or developers are interested in building in your districts, let them know about the program for sure. it's one of the easier programs and it saves developers, you know, you're always looking at their bottom line and it's a great help to them. And just give you a reference, a phase one typically costs around $3,000. We typically will fully fund a phase one through this grant. But phase two can get up to tens of thousands of dollars. So usually what we do with that is we'll do a cost share. We'll do like up to 50% of the US EPA grant versus developer. You gotta put some skin in the game. You put 50% in, we'll put 50% in. That way we can tell that they're really serious about the project and not just using this as basically a screening or a vetting process for them to walk away from it.
Right, thank you. The questions are similar to what I was gonna ask, so I feel like I'm good to go. And if nothing further, we can go ahead and prompt the vote on item 9A. Brad, while those votes are coming in, point of privilege, do you guys work with transformational? Is that under the Brownfield
Yep.
guys?
Yep.
Commissioner Taylor and I had a little meeting on Monday with some of the people who sit high and look low.
Yeah, I was sitting down in my office on Zoom, I was on the Zoom call.
And I would love for like a crash course, maybe Commissioner Taylor and I could to virtually meet with you
Sure.
and learn a little more about that.
Love to.
Okay. wonderful.
Actually, in this body, actually, we had the exchange Brownfield Transformational that went through this body late last year. But yeah, I'll be more than happy to meet with anybody. If you have any questions whatsoever.
That'd be great.
I don't think this version has my contact information on it as of
Not
yet.
yet.
But we
It will.
made that change for the new official
okay.
document there will be, but yeah, feel free to get in touch with me.
Great.
You have 6 days, you're on it.
68 nays, motion carries. If you want, you can just, if you have a card or wanna
Yep, I
just
do.
communicate through our wonderful Amy Aubrey, Ms. Aubrey, with our, and when you get all done, but the vote passed, so you all are in good shape to proceed. Thank you. Well, at least till it gets to the board, which is next week. Next item, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make sure to distribute those out. Maybe like I don't know. Maybe someone take a picture with their phone, so I'll keep one for myself. Other than that, let's go, moving on to item 10A, which is Facilities Management Department recommendations. Item A, we're looking for a motion to recommend to the board Facilities Management Purchase Agreement for vacant land on Walton Boulevard in Pontiac, Michigan. Paul and Melissa are here. Motion made by Commissioner Taylor, supported by Commissioner Weipert. Well, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, good morning. Nice to see you all again. It's our pleasure to have this deal come forward.
Paul, can I just get you to introduce yourself? Many of us are familiar with what you do around here, but just both Melissa and yourself, please.
Sure, I'm Paul Zakos. I'm a property specialist, so that's in facilities. They need somebody to kind of not manage, but know what's going on with real estate by selling or leasing property. So that goes through the director, Ed Joss, and I work right under Ed as the property specialist. So some of my clients are parks, Parks and Rec, the sheriff's office, health department. So they go to Ed and when they have a need and make a determination and comes through me, and there's a process. So that's what I do.
We keep Paul very busy. I'm Melissa Pross, I'm the manager of planning and development for Parks and Recreation. So I oversee all of our planning, design and development across the park system, which includes property acquisition and our natural resources management team as well.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So in this case, we're happy to report that we have a purchase agreement we'd like to recommend to the board. We had authorization, if you were here in a prior meeting, when Parks finds a property that they think they want to buy, we first ask this committee for authorization to go and negotiate the purchase and all of those details. So we did that and over the holidays, and we have a purchase agreement that is signed by the seller that we'd like to recommend to the board. So Melissa can get into some details about why and what the property will be used for, but basically there's a park in Pontiac called Pontiac Oaks. It used to be a Hawthorne Park. And Oakland County Parks has an agreement with Pontiac to manage that. Part of the park's staff and their resource department, they made some determinations, hey, it'd be really neat to, not just neat, but really a lot of other details to expand. And some of that is this parcel. So we found that this parcel has lake frontage and it's right next to the Pontiac Oaks. And this will be used to expand that. So we, again, going back to the authorization, we contacted the seller through their agent. They had an agent. And some of the background on the numbers are that the original purchase price for this is 17 acres is $1.1 million, and they had it on the market for a long time, many years. They had lowered it to $820,000. We said we knew that wasn't realistic in our view. We hired an appraiser and he appraised the property for $350,000. We made an offer for $360,000 plus paying some costs. Verbally, they came back to me and I told Melissa and the real estate team they wanted $500,000. I said that's not a doable deal. So come back again with something else. So they came back with this $399,000, $510,000, and that was acceptable. So that's where we're at on the price. And then once the purchase agreement is signed by the board, we'll go into due diligence. We have 60 days and we'll do all of our work, getting a phase one, a survey and title and all that before we set up a closing. So it looks pretty good and we're pretty happy about it.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to note about the purchase price is that we do have a grant from the DNR through Ducks Unlimited for $425,000 that's covering the full cost of this acquisition. So normally we have to put in some match money or, bring a little bit more to the table, but Ducks Unlimited is fully funding this, which is fantastic. There is a map in your packet, I think it's on page 75, so you can kind of see how the parcels relate to the Pontiac Oaks property. We have been looking at these parcels for a long time, as Paul mentioned, so we're excited that this is finally coming to fruition. And the main reason we're interested, there's two reasons that we're interested in them. One is you can see from Pontiac Oaks that we have some shoreline of Krieger Lake as part of that park. There are a lot of invasives around that shoreline. There's a lot of Phragmites, a lot of invasive cattail, and it's really hard to manage one half of a lake when you can't control what's going on the other side. So this essentially gives us the entire boundary of Krieger Lake. It does connect to the lake. I forget the name of the lake that's just to the west there, but Silver, thank you. But this will make that management much, much easier for us. What you don't see on that map is that we're also talking to Pontiac School District and are in process of putting an agreement together to manage the little triangle of property that's just to the east of Pontiac Oaks that they own, that will add that acreage to the park as well, which then just kind of completes the whole circle around the lake. So it'll also give us hopefully some recreational access so that we can put some sort of trail potentially around the lake up to the other side and back. Opening up those lake views and getting people access to the water was a big part of why we were excited about Pontiac Oaks, so this just helps us a little bit further along.
Well, I got the privilege to see this in Parks meeting. I sit on Parks, for those who don't know. And I think if you do the math, this becomes a 100-acre wood, which is kind of cute. But I digress. Over to, let me just check the portal here. Commissioner Wiper, we'll start with you. Did you have something, Commissioner Johnson?
It's in the portal.
I don't see it. Come on now, civic clerk.
I see Johnson and Markham.
Okay. I'm gonna start with this side of the table. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you very much.
And Commissioner Markham.
Thank you. I'm sorry, could you just remind me what you just said about the triangular property and then also the property that is pentagonal
Sorry, we don't
to
have it
the
up on
direct south across Telegraph?
Oh, sure, yeah. So the property that's, I wish I could point to a map, but if you're looking at the map that's in your packet, the property that's just to the right of that is essentially a triangle shape, and you'll see that Pontiac Oaks is a very weird shape with that little cut up along Telegraph. We have been talking to Pontiac School District, who owns that. We were initially interested in buying it from them and just adding it to Pontiac Oaks. They weren't interested in selling it, but sort of the same as the city of Pontiac, they were interested in a 20-year lease for us to essentially operate it as part of Pontiac Oaks. So we're in that process right now. I don't think it's fully finalized, but it's looking really good.
You said
We're-
Oakland Schools or Pontiac Schools?
Pontiac Schools.
Pontiac Schools.
And we're already starting to think about planning for that. There's lots of discussion about having it be sort of a youth-focused area with some nature education potentially. There's also discussion about some sort of aquatic facility, maybe a small splash pad or something there as well. So we're just starting that planning process, but makes all the sense in the world to add that to the park just because of the way the property lines are laid out. The area on the other side of the park, do you know more about that property that you can, like there's a lot of ATV activity over there, we know, and I think there's some dumping that's going on over there, but that, I don't know I forget who owns that property. We have looked into it and there wasn't really anything viable for us there.
It's an industrial zoning, and that wouldn't be, it's my understanding it was just purchased and it's part of a bigger development.
Oh,
It has to do with industrial and the railroad tracks and all of that.
I only bring it up.
Can we get a map up on the screen somehow?
No, I
You can't share your screen.
No, cause it's on this screen, not.
Got it.
talking about down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously I'm like a expansionist, the triangle parcel absolutely makes sense. I drive on this all the time and I only really am thinking about the other parcel because as long as it isn't developed with housing or industrial or whatever, I think the casual passerby is none the wiser that it isn't all the same parcel. And if one half looks very nice and the other half looks rather run down, the casual passerby perceives the entire thing as being the lesser of the two. But that's my uninformed opinion. I love these 4 parcels, so yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll keep our eye on that southern parcel, but.
Okay.
Commissioner Markham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I like this for a couple of reasons. You are retaining the green space along Walton so that the park isn't viewing the road,
Yes.
right? Or something, a little strip mall or something that might get put in there. So I really appreciate that, keeps that green space bigger in what's really a urban setting. So I really like that. I'm still not clear on this triangle piece. So is this the part that is to the east of the red boundary?
Yes, it's this triangle right here.
It's this triangle,
Yep.
okay, cause I did have a question, as the lines were drawn up in the maps, it came up, I was wondering about how they intersected, but if we acquired all of that, or you're saying we would lease it, long-term lease?
Yes, we would lease it, same as Pontiac Oaks.
Okay. Yeah, that makes so much more sense.
People have sort of used it as part of the park for a long time. There's a lot of activity over there, but there's also been a lot of truck traffic through there. They were letting folks dump there, so we have some environmental assessment work to do there just to make sure that it's safe and usable, but.
Yeah, and this map shows an old, I think, like, road.
Yeah, it's actually like a track. I don't know if they're riding dirt bikes out there or what, but it's some sort of track.
People tend to create the trail.
Right.
I guess that's how the highways started many years ago. It's just where people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. It's, does a lot of good things.
So the map and everything, you're clear on the.
I'm clear on that.
pieces and all, great.
I was told by somebody not too long ago that this park used to be a place that we would find dead bodies. They were dumping dead bodies in this park, so this is, that's not a joke, that's what
Not a
I was
joke.
told by an authority. And so I'm thrilled with what we've done here.
Yeah, we're excited.
And the part that the school district still owns, that little path, the street that takes you to the right there, a lot of people don't know the demarcation of the two, so it'll be good to, hopefully Pontiac schools will be on board with it, but I understand how school boards are, they hate to give up land, but at the same time, need the cash.
But they've been great, they're very excited, we'll have them at the table through the whole planning process,
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
That's cool. Yeah. Let me make sure, no, Commissioner Wiper, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, even though most of this is underwater, it's wetlands and it helps on the lake, but it is Walton Boulevard.
It is,
So we have access now on another public right of way.
we do, which is, I mean, we
Which
won't
is-
build a parking
right.
lot or anything off there, but just access for our natural resource crews
Right,
to be able to park and do their work is very important.
And do you think on that last parcel, the 4.12 acres, that there could ever be access to that, that's pretty wet?
It's pretty wet, I mean, we might be able to put a small parking lot there,
Okay.
but I'm not entirely sure if we would or not.
So a little story there, since that last parcel you're looking at.
Yeah.
The parcel to the further west, somebody bought and has like a fishing,
Live
outlet
bait,
there.
live
Yeah.
bait?
And they wanna put like little cabins on there, like little Airbnbs. And they wanted to buy her parcel, and I said, no, we need all the parcels. So she had that kind of as a negotiating ploy, and I said, well, you know, we want all the parcels and we wanna preserve them all, so. So they were tough.
Please.
So, and I mean, it's our appraisal at 350.
Yes,
Yeah.
of
and-
all, of the entire 17 acres.
Yeah, and it got us negotiated to the 399, which you guys did a great job.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a premium for having proper, getting, you know, if you wanna complain about your neighbor and you had the chance to get it, you gotta get it.
Yep.
And so that's, you know, that's a good little lesson in life, right? If you can be your own neighbor, which you do it. And so it's worth a premium, you know, even though,
That's a good way to put it.
and we have Ducks Unlimited and the state helping out, so.
Excellent conversation. Anything further? If not, we can go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries to recommend to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 11 on our agenda, which is our second public comment. The 3 minutes still applies, but any topic this time. Is there anyone who'd like to address this committee? Seeing no one moving towards the front to speak to the committee, I'll close the second public comment. Takes us to item 12, which is other business. Is there any other business before us today? Seeing none, this meeting of the Economic Development Infrastructure Committee is adjourned.
All right.